Hey, Foot Clan, before we get to our waivers show, I want to remind you about Squad QL. Do you want an unfair advantage to dominate your fantasy football league? Look no further and download Squad QL, the only mobile app that you need to crush your friends and rivals. Squad QL recommends the best starting lineup for each week based on your starters, bench players, and free agent pool. They even provide waiver and trade recommendations too. Go to squadql.com to download Squad QL for free. Squad QL is brought to you by the creators of RotoQL. That's squadql.com to download Squad QL for free.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from Draft.com Studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Oh, what's going on?
This is a big day, fellas. Waiver day.
Welcome to the show.
Good thing the Foot Clan knows we are unwavering
In our commitment
to the waivers.
Yes. Welcome, the fantasy footballers.
We've lost 5 listeners from that.
Yes.
And I apologize for nothing.
What they don't know is Jason's been walking around the studio the last few days with an actual dad jokes book. Like he used company funds.
Yes, I did.
Company funds to purchase a dad jokes book. And then you think you're having a real conversation with him, and all of a sudden he just asks a question that has no relevance, and it ends up being some terrible
I really need to
dad
just
joke.
have it on the set.
You
so
do.
that I can interrupt the show.
No, I
every now and
disagree
then.
with. Don't listen to Dad over here.
Look,
Hit me
those
up
are
on
my
Twitter
jokes.
if you want that.
Yes, it's actually published by Andy Holloway.
We have a waiver show today, guys.
Nice.
We also have the streams of the week on the show.
Oh, nicer.
We're going to talk about some of those big-time players that everyone wants to know about, including some we didn't discuss yesterday, Alex Collins being one of them. We'll talk about him momentarily. I did want to this show is why you need to keep it here all year. I just want to say that. Reason number 2 is this show is completely and utterly free, so you just get it in your pocket. There's no real reason not to listen to it every day.
True.
But Jason said it all off season. We've been saying it. You don't win at your draft. Now's the time you get to make the moves that win your league. Jason, have you received any trade offers lately?
Oh, shut up. Oh,
this is something I don't know about.
Yes, Mike, you are unaware.
Oh, was Andy?
All right.
Okay.
We got to take a quick update before we get to the super important waivers. Brooks and I, our monster, super awesome, unbelievable team is 0-1 despite scoring the second most points in the league.
You must be really disappointed.
Awesome. I am. I lost to the Pat Mahomes, Tyreek Hill stack of Andy Holloway. Oh, you're rocking the shades over there.
I'm just looking as cool as that stack was.
And I got a trade proposal this morning. And pro tip. You want to troll someone? This is how. Okay? If you won and you had a player that exceeded expectations, remind that person that you beat them by offering them a trade. I get the trade proposal. I'm like, oh, I got a trade proposal. I open it up. I can give my David Johnson for Patrick Mahomes. It's just a reminder that I lost.
Oh, yes.
Thanks,
yes.
Andy.
You're welcome.
That does lead into a great tip. Right now, if you are living large, you're 1-0, you're feeling good, living
so
your best,
undefeated.
living your best life right now. Take a look at the 6 losers
Yes.
in your league.
Yes.
See if they have a star on their player.
So Jason and 5 others. Got it.
A star on their player that underperformed.
I do not.
And see if they will tilt trade
Yes.
said star player to you.
This is absolutely one of the best tips you can do. Look at those players and look at who underwhelmed on their teams.
Yep.
Go target them. Here's somebody I'm targeting right now. T.Y. Hilton.
Sure.
If the T.Y. Hilton is on the team that lost in week 1, he wasn't terrible, he wasn't amazing, and I think he's going to be amazing. I would target T.Y. Hilton right now.
Fair.
I'm also putting Brandon Cooks in that category. Just throwing it out.
Are you?
I am. I'm targeting him everywhere.
Yeah.
Not me.
That's fine. That's fine. All right. Hey, thank you, Foot Clan.
Yeah.
We are up and over. Up and over. 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, youtube.com/thefantasyfootballers.
You're beautiful people.
Mike was on YouTube on Sunday morning on his Sunday live stream.
Yeah.
It was great, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
And I plan on subscribing in the next couple weeks. Twitter @theFFBallers if you want to stay tuned to all the latest news, notes, information, waiver updates, injury updates. Keep it on Twitter @theFFBallers. And a reminder, if you play DFS, we've got you covered. The Fantasy Footballers are taking care of you. We want to help you win, and we've got a couple different ways we do that. One is the Ultimate DFS Pass. If you've bought the Ultimate Draft Kit in the past and you play DFS, you want the Ultimate DFS Pass. And you can go get it at ultimatedfspass.com. The other way is we have a free weekly DFS podcast hosted by Mike.
That's me.
The fantasy hitman himself, with two of the leading experts in the DFS industry, Ben Cummins, Chris Meany. This is the second year that we've had that podcast. Yep. It is a smashing hit. I don't even know if that's a phrase, but that's what it is. Right, Brooks?
It's usually
Can
a
I get a
smash
ruling?
hit, but smashing is fine.
I like it.
Okay. Quick question of the day. What is your concern level for Ravens running back Alex Collins? It wasn't a good fantasy week. I've seen a lot of Alex Collins tilt. And before I get your answer, I just want to say the concern that I had about Alex Collins coming into this year was not the talent. The concern I had was the paper-thin loyalty that this team is obligated to have to him. However, Kenneth Dixon, who came in and doubled him up on carries in this past week, is expected to miss some time with a knee injury. So how concerned are you with Alex Collins in general? Rest of season outlook, 15 games remaining.
So I went back and I watched it all, the Baltimore versus Buffalo game. I did it, guys. I endured. I did it for the Foot Clan. I knew it wasn't.
You have one of those eye-propping devices that kept them open?
It was Clockwork Orange. I had to shove the gadget in my eyes to keep them open, and I screamed much like he did of no, no, Peterman, no. It was a matter of game plan. I mean, they were very aggressive with Joe Flacco. Alex Collins, to begin the game, was on the field a lot, just wasn't getting handoffs. He did have an unfortunate fumble, and he got punished for a few drives before getting back on the field. The conditions were it was rainy. It wasn't great, so it seemed like one of those things to me. And then Kenneth Dixon came in to clean up because the game was over. But now Kenneth Dixon is out. I will say my concern level is I got an eyebrow up, but I'm still okay.
Out of 10?
Yeah. Out of 10.
Solid analysis.
Statistically speaking, of course. So I'm still going to run him out there. I believe he will still be the starter. We're going to talk about him in the waiver portion of today's show. Buck Allen, though, is a must-add. We talked about the fantasy thorn in the buck cheeks.
Oh, wow.
That is Buck Allen. We said we liked Alex Collins.
Right in the buck cheeks.
Right in the buck. You knew he was going to do something. If he saw all of his opportunity last year, they just aren't going to go away from him, and he's going to be annoying for the Alex Collins owners. But I still have faith that Alex Collins is the primary leader of the timeshare.
Yeah, and I have very little worry thanks to the Kenneth Dixon injury about his immediate future and about his talent. I do completely 100% agree with Andy that they have a paper-thin loyalty to him. They have no money, draft capital, anything that says he has to be the guy. If he comes out and fumbles again, he's getting benched. So there are worries there, but with Kenneth Dixon out of the way, it's easier to just trust that he'll be given the reins again.
He had a nice run to open the game.
There was a callback.
A callback on a holding penalty, and this isn't Baltimore-related, but it's Shady McCoy-related. Every freaking 5-yard run that Shady McCoy ripped off, holding call. So it got called back. So, once again, don't over-freak out about LaShawn McCoy's
just regular freak out?
Yes.
Okay.
Just regular, this offense is not great.
I would throw Chris Carson in the same category as Alex Collins, where the loyalty to him is paper-thin. He's not a high draft capital investment, and he split time with Rashad Penny this past week.
He was better than Penny.
Yes, but they both were, 12 carries each?
It was even.
They had the same amount of carries, same amount of targets.
Okay. So, I mean, this is what we look at, though, in week one. What do we read into? What do we move on past? Let's talk briefly about the Monday Night Football games. The Jets manhandled and destroyed Matt Stafford and the Detroit Lions 48-17, and then the Rams overcame the emotion to start that game, and eventually emotion ran out of gas.
Yes.
As did Derek Carr, who started the game 20 for 24, 199 yards, near perfection, and ended in Nathan Peterman's zone.
Yep.
So 33-13, the Rams beat the Raiders.
Not a zone you want to be in.
Starting with the Jets game, I want to put fantasy owners on high alert for Robbie Anderson.
Yeah.
Now. Trade Robbie Anderson.
Yes.
Trade him now. He had one reception last night.
It was big.
Now, it was a touchdown. But the problem is the same one that would exist with, look, Josh McCown loves throwing the ball deep. He's made to throw the ball deep. He was one of the best in the league last year, and Robbie Anderson is an elite talent on the deep ball. This is what we said all offseason. We love Robbie Anderson with Josh McCown. Robbie Anderson took his one target downfield and scored on it, which was great. But the target count and what this offense is going to do to protect Sam Darnold.
The target count was 1, by the way.
What he's going to do, they're going to protect Sam Darnold from himself. And that means, yes, maybe they take that shot, but what if he doesn't come up with that ball? He's goosed last night. This is the time you can trade Robbie Anderson. The possession receiver on that team is Quincy Enunwa.
And he looks great.
And he looked great.
Yeah.
Jason told me yesterday before the game, he goes, I can't believe that you don't like Quincy Enunwa because you loved him.
Yeah. It's so weird because
as a player,
a long time ago before, Quincy was anybody that we recognized. I remember Andy and I watching and being like just loving him, the player, going. It reminded me of Stephon Diggs early in his career.
He's an eye test guy.
Yeah, and so it was sad that you weren't on board, but welcome back.
Well, sure, and I'm happy to be wrong about Quincy Enunwa. I really am. It was a matter of Josh McCown was the quarterback, and Quincy Enunwa was dealing with neck injuries and things that I didn't get to see on the field, his health. He looked great underneath those crossing routes, doing things with them. This was a very impressive performance from Quincy Enunwa. He is a waiver wire pickup.
100%. If you're looking for wide receiver help, I love Quincy. My quick takeaways for this, Matt Stafford looked horrific. Like, that was a nightmare. That was an absolute nightmare. But Marvin Jones just narrowly missed on 2 long touchdowns, and this was what we talked about, the regression coming from Marvin Jones. Last year, he just came down with almost every single one of those passes. Marvin Jones will come down with some. So that really changes the game flow if Jones comes down with just one of those passes. But quickly to the Jets side, Bilal Powell. This was Bilal Powell.
Blah, blah.
And yes, Isaiah Crowell was the big winner. He had the 60-yard touchdown run. I'm not taking away from him. What I will say about Bilal Powell, he started. He was getting carries in a blowout. He was time-sharing with Isaiah Crowell. So if that continues and he's going to be involved no matter what, if they're winning, then he's in. He's going to get carries. If they are losing, he will be the guy who is in as they pass the ball to try and catch up. So this was very encouraging for Bilal Powell's usage. I'm not calling him a high-end running back 1 or anything of that stretch, but he will be absolutely a usable running back.
Carry on my wayward son.
How you feeling, Jay?
I feel like I need to cry some more. Look, anybody that watched the game can tell who their best running back is. I don't think that's up for debate. He was the best on the ground. I mean, that one-handed catch on the poor pass by Stafford is what I'm talking about. He is a well-rounded back that if they were to just put him on the field and leave him there, which I do think by the end of the season will happen. Talent, I believe, here will win out. Amir Abdullah was inactive, but this game became nuts. I mean, this game just got completely out of control thanks to all of the interceptions from Stafford. And then Theo Riddick was on the game, was in there, and they completely abandoned the run. My issue was before that happened, early in the game. It was like when Kerryon was on the field, they're moving, and then they take him out, and they stop, and it's like, it was frustrating.
LeGarrette Blount did leave with a knee injury.
Yeah,
we don't know the severity.
Not yet.
And so that could lead to some early Kerryon opportunity next week, and he is involved in the passing game. That's the nice thing.
Kerryon had a had a nice long session of getting consecutive snaps as well. Even before the LeGarrette Blount injury, I think that it was the game got out of control and they had to go to or they chose to go.
This is the time to go grab it. I mean,
yes.
15 total carries for Detroit. The game script was not conducive to the running back, other than Theoretic being in the game for garbage time.
15 carries, 52 passes.
Yeah.
All right, we got to talk about this other game. The Rams, the Raiders.
Oh, no.
All right, guys. Amari Cooper, 3 targets in a game in which Derek Carr threw the ball 40 times. He caught 1 pass for 9 yards, and there may not be hair on the heads of anybody who drafted him anymore because they have pulled it all out. They are in a sea of their own tears, and should they be?
Maybe. I'm not on a definite yes yet. The Los Angeles Rams have one of the best defenses in the entire league, and then B, their secondary is incredibly strong, and you saw a game plan of Derek Carr was going to go to what he felt was the better option. It was Jared Cook, who just torched last night, 9 for 180 on 12 targets. It's unbelievable what Jared Cook did last night. So if you're Amari Cooper, or if you have Amari Cooper on your team, that's the narrative I'm spinning to myself right now, is they had to go to Jared Cook, and there's brighter days coming for Amari Cooper.
They do face the Broncos next week, so very similar.
Jared Cook will be heavily involved.
Light up your Jared Cook next week.
The Jared Cook concerns are that he does this once a year and then burns you, but the next 3 matchups are against the 3 of the worst teams against the tight end position. The targets are few now that Michael Crabtree is gone. You don't have the options, the pass-catching options you had before. I think Jared Cook is playable clearly in a tight end landscape that is atrocious, but you can't expect a game like this every week. And Jared Cook has a specialty, and his specialty is to take your hype and hope and generally deflate you.
He is awesome at coming out week 1 looking like a stud, and then it's like, wait, what happened?
But for Amari Cooper, the defense of Amari Cooper, and this was finally the year for me that I was on board with the draft price and the upside.
Do you target him on, with the tilt that you're feeling for Amari Cooper, other owners are going to let him go for almost nothing. I mean, I just saw Adrian Peterson get traded for Kareem Hunt in a league. I'm not even joking you.
What?
Because of Kareem Hunt tilt.
What?
Yes.
Good for you,
tilt
whoever
is real.
traded for Kareem Hunt.
Tilt is real, and what I want to say is, do you go target Amari Cooper because there are brighter days ahead and there are limited pass-catching options? I doubt John Gruden is very happy with what happened there. And it was Talib and Peters.
Whenever you can get a player for pennies on the dollar, it's just a wise decision to do that if you've got the roster room. So I'm willing to go poke around and see if the guy is completely off board with the player, but I'm not going to pay fair value for Amari Cooper because we have to come to the realization that he might just not be that good. I mean, that is one of the possible outcomes here, is that Cooper he's not a wide receiver 1.
Let me ask you this. I'll make it easy. The Detroit Lions wide receivers, Golden Tate, monster game. Would you trade Golden Tate for Amari Cooper?
I would rather have Golden Tate right now.
I would probably make the trade.
Marvin Jones.
No, I would not trade Marvin Jones. I'd rather have Marvin Jones.
Okay, and
now, yeah.
What about Kenny Golladay?
No, I would take Cooper.
We can talk about Golladay in a little bit here. No, it's interesting. All right. By the way, the one saving grace that you might say about Robbie Anderson from earlier is that he did face Darius Slay in this game.
Sure.
Maybe they worked away from him.
Well, and what I was going to say is I think Sam Darnold eventually will start opening it up, but I'm with Andy that if I have Robbie Anderson and I can trade him off of the double-digit fantasy point game right now, I would likely try to do that.
Good game from Jared Goff. Todd Gurley, 20 for 108. Todd Gurley's great.
Yes.
He's so great. Brandon Cooks, 5 for 87. Cooper Kupp, 5 for 52 and a touchdown. Robert Woods, 3 for 37.
And missed just by a couple inches
a bomb.
A few different plays, but yes, one long bomb.
8-9-9. That's the target count between the 3 guys. My projection for this team is that Brandon Cooks will do very well, He will likely lead this team in yardage. He'll be up over 1,000 yards. It's just going to be a matter of. I mean, I loved what he looked like last night. I thought it was great. I'm confident that Cooks is the leader of that pack. Are you guys of the mentality that you want the least expensive option of that group?
That's
no,
where
I want Cooper Kupp.
You want Cooper Kupp specifically because you think he's the red zone target. That makes sense. I mean, I want any of the three of them, but I'm not going to pay up because while I do agree, Andy, I think Brandon Cooks leads them in yardage by the end of the season. I don't feel like this is a wide receiver 1 versus a wide receiver 2 for a team. These three guys are all going to be so involved, and they're going to eat into each other, and there's plenty of production to go around where you can start all three of them.
Yeah.
But you have to keep in mind that those three guys are not going to be week in, week out superstars. There's just not enough production to go around.
Before we move into the news and notes, want to thank today's sponsor, Pristine Auction, the absolute best sports memorabilia website of all time. Ladies and gentlemen, there are hundreds of new things up on Pristine Auction every single day. Speaking of what's up, Todd Gurley dominating for fantasy, dominating our wall with a signed Todd Gurley jersey. I never worry about the signatures coming from Pristine Auction. They use the absolute best certification process and the best certifiers in the business. Check this out, Foot Clan. Recently auctioned on Pristine Auction. You got Keenan Allen signed Chargers jersey for just $88. You got a Jay Ajayi signed Eagles jersey, $68. Stephon Diggs, Vikings jersey, $82. You're getting unique things. You're getting memorabilia that you cannot get anywhere else. Check it out. Pristine Auction. That's PRISTINE auction.com. You make that completely free account. And when you do that, let them know that the fantasy footballers sent you.
And hey, Foot Clan, if you don't have the Game Pass from the NFL yet, you're doing it wrong. Listen, this is how Mike just talked about. He went back and he watched all of the Baltimore Ravens running backs. And how'd you do it, Mike?
On the NFL Game Pass.
Game Pass. You want to go back and watch one of the best games of all time with that Packers-Bears, the incredible comeback. You can watch every single game over on Game Pass. And
I hear John Gruden's been watching the Khalil Mack highlights.
Yeah, got him. And look, you can replay them from every single angle. You can get the broadcast version, commercial-free, the coaches film, the All-22 film. You want to make your waiver pickup and you don't know who to pick, go watch some of the film and say, how did Phillip Lindsay look? Because I missed that game. Best of all, you can kick off the 2018 NFL season with a 7-day free trial of NFL Game Pass. Go to NFL.com/fantasyfootballers. That's NFL.com/fantasyfootballers. You won't be disappointed. Game on.
All right, I want to get into the waiver wire, so I'm going to push some of the news until tomorrow's show. We'll catch you up on Aaron Rodgers' injury. We'll catch you up on those things. There's nothing really new to report there. So
in the news?
I'm saying from an Aaron Rodgers perspective, we don't know anything else about that. Doug Baldwin suffered a grade 2 partial MCL tear.
That's the big news.
That is the big news. They're trying to figure out how much time he's going to miss. It's going to probably be 2 to 3 weeks for Doug Baldwin. Patriots signed Corey Coleman. People probably want to know, do you go sign Corey Coleman? I say no.
No, it just gives you a slight little glimmer of hope for your dynasty team.
Right. Dynasty, if he's on waivers, absolutely pick him up.
Sure.
All right. Without further ado.
Put me in, Coach.
All right, it's time to talk Week 1 waiver wire pickups. I'll be getting all my bids in today for all of our leagues.
I will be putting in $1 higher bids in on all of those same players.
Yeah, okay. All right. Do you know what I'm going to bid?
Yeah, I'm going to log into your account.
Oh, okay.
Well, we know because you're going to tell us right now.
That's true.
Dang it.
That's the bad part of this business.
Dang it. All right, so let's start at the wide receiver position. So let's go into a couple of guys that are probably owned but worth checking on. Who are those names for you?
Randall Cobb and Kenny Stills.
Yeah,
those are the two big ones.
Scott Barrett does great work. If you're not following him on Twitter, give him a follow. He pointed out that Randall Cobb's success in his targets over the last several seasons have come when Aaron Rodgers is in shotgun, which he hasn't been in that much. But after he got injured, he was almost exclusively in the shotgun formation. So I think that is one of those things helping. Look, it's a tough matchup, I believe, coming up. But yeah, Randall Cobb is definitely a must pick up if he's on the waivers.
And you guys both feel strongly about Kenny Stills following this 4 for 106 and 2 performance?
Yeah, yes. I do. I brought up yesterday that he only had 5 targets, but the reality is he's still the number 1 guy on the team, and he was on the field, I think, 94% of snaps. So he should be owned and played. Let's
ask this follow-up. If Cobb and Stills are sitting there on your waivers, how much fab are you investing in either of those guys? Because you're buying high on both, in a sense, right? You've got this great Week 1 performance. Kenny Stills is not going to score 32 touchdowns this season. So what is the investment that you're willing to make? Cobb faces Washington this week. Stills faces the Jets.
Cobb is actually, I think, faces the Vikings, right?
Yes, that is correct. Sorry, yes, that is correct.
Yeah, this early on, I'm not going to blow a huge amount of my budget on one of these wide receivers. You got to manage those funds, save up for when the big running back becomes available. But for a Randall Cobb or Kenny Stills, 10 to 15%.
Yeah, this
would be the most I'd be willing to bid.
This is where philosophically you have to ask yourself, how do you spend your budget? And I just don't spend a large portion of my budget on wide receivers. Look,
you'd rather get the best value on a shot.
Exactly.
Like some of these guys are
about I'd rather spend $1 or $2 and grab a Quincy Enunwa that I can play week in, week out, play matchups. You can pretty much always grab a wide receiver off of waivers and start him. Even in our 14-team listener league, I grabbed Ted Ginn this last week and threw him in my lineup. Hee-haw! And he was free. So I'm not going to spend up even on a Randall Cobb or a Kenny Stills. I'll put a bid in on him for sure.
Right.
Cobb, I'll go $5. Probably won't get him. But I would much rather have my money for the running back position where you cannot just pick someone up week in, week out off of waivers and save it up for that one. There's always 1 or 5 through the season where it's like you've got to get
1 or 5, yes.
It's different every year, just depending on the injuries.
I want to talk about some of these main pickups. These are guys that are owned in fewer leagues. And let's start with Chris Godwin, wide receiver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Evan Silva tweeted out, there are 4 games in Chris Godwin's career in which he has played 40-plus snaps. His production in those games, 5 for 68, 3 for 98, 7 for 111 and 1, and then this past week, 3 for 41 and 1. Deshaun Jackson does not appear likely to play this week.
Yeah, he had a really bad concussion.
So if you were looking at a player like Chris Godwin, how excited would you be to pick up him? Would you invest more in that budget for Chris Godwin than a Kenny Stills because of upside or no?
About the same. Right around.
Plays Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, both games at home in the next 2 weeks.
And would the absence of Deshaun Jackson actually help Godwin?
Yes.
You believe so? Or does it hurt him because the team is whoever's defending the Tampa Bay Buccaneers against those 3 wide receivers? You have to sacrifice. You can't double team everybody.
No, of course not. I mean, you can say, okay, he opens up the coverage, but the way that Chris Godwin plays, he is a contested catch freak. What I care about is not the coverage. I care about the targets. I want him to have more volume, and I think that's
only 4
help.
targets last week.
Exactly. So if Deshaun Jackson were to go out, if he's not able to get back, then Godwin is a better play. I will say this. We've seen enough games now, in my opinion, to make a determination that Fitzpatrick targets the wide receivers a heck of a lot more than Winston does. We saw it last year.
Relative to the tight ends.
And then when Winston comes in, he targets the tight ends far more than the wide receivers as relative to Fitzpatrick.
Right.
And so my point here is that, hey, right now, this is great. If Deshaun Jackson is not there and Ryan Fitzpatrick is the starting quarterback, Chris Godwin looks great. But keep in mind, I do think that there will be that shift coming in a couple weeks when, presuming that Winston takes over the starting gig, that it will shift a little bit more away from the wide receivers into O.J. Howard and Cameron Brate.
I'm going to throw some names out there. The main waiver wire kind of pickup guys this week, and I want to hear a couple of your favorites. Here are some players that are worth bringing up. Brandon Marshall.
Yes.
7% owned, 3 for 46 and a touchdown. Tyler Lockett, 3 for 59 and a touchdown.
Just real
quick. And Doug Baldwin likely to miss.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to pause right there before we get into more names, but the Seattle wide receivers, Jason, who, if you can you can get them for equal price. Are you going for Brandon Marshall or Tyler Lockett?
Wow, man.
I guess I would take Lockett.
I think I would take Lockett as
on
well.
equal price.
Because,
like you said.
I see that I view Brandon Marshall's floor as higher than Lockett's. I still see Lockett, even without Doug Baldwin, as kind of a boom-bust guy, but he'll get a few more of those high-end targets. So if you want to talk ceiling, you'd go Tyler Lockett, and that's who I'd make my play on. But I would want both of these guys.
I would bid on both of them, and I'd be happy if I got Marshall for less fab.
So just a couple bucks on each?
Yes.
Or you, okay.
Well, Lockett, I'd probably spend $8-9.
All right.
Marshall, I'd probably spend $2. Philip Dorsett, Quincy Enunwa, Ted Ginn, John Brown, Ryan Grant, 8 for 59 in that game for Indianapolis, only 3% owned. And then Mike Williams had a nice game, 5 for 81 on 6 targets. Really liked what I saw on the field. It was a production plus eye test thing for me for Mike Williams, fitting with preseason. What do you guys think about those names?
Of those names, Quincy Enunwa is at the top of the list for me. You have – I'm trying to think through of all the game script how things went for these players. Like Mike Williams, 5 for 81, that's fantastic.
Trailing the whole game.
Game script was was in the favor of the pass. Tyrell Williams dropped a few touchdowns. I mean, things could have changed very quickly for Mike Williams' production line. Meanwhile, Quincy Enunwa, I know that the defense for the Jets was doing work, but in a game where they were winning the whole time, 10 targets for Quincy Enunwa is very interesting to me.
I like Quincy a lot, but much more so in a PPR league. He did get the touchdown this week, but I see him more as a possession guy that's going to get a lot of targets, but they're going to be low-value targets unless you're in a full PPR league. To me, it's Ted Ginn Jr. I mean, I just mentioned I pick him up, threw him in, because you had the hope and the hunch that he's going to retain the role that he's been great at. He has not lost anything on game speed. We can track that with the next-gen stats. He's blazing lightning fast. Traquan Smith didn't get a target.
Yeah.
All the worries of all the other people coming in to take targets, Cam Meredith, inactive. It was Ted Ginn, and
he performed.
He did great. They're at home against Cleveland this week.
He did a little dance routine.
There's no reason not to keep Ted Ginn in your lineup. So and he's probably going to. I mean, that's the thing.
I would think.
You put a $1 bid in on Brandon Marshall, Tyler Lockett, Chris Godwin, Quincy Enunwa, Ted Ginn Jr., and I would Mike Williams, and I would definitely throw in John Brown, who that's a guy that I'm definitely targeting. You're going to get one of them, and they're all worthy. That's why I don't want to spend up.
And I'm going to throw Kenny Golladay in there as well. I know the 12 targets is a product of Detroit trying to catch up the whole time, but Stafford was relying on Kenny Golladay a lot. 7 for 114. Gets to take on San Francisco. Kenny Golladay looks like he's taking the mantle of.
I just don't know how you play
guy.
Kenny Golladay. I mean,
you put him in your lineup.
Yeah, you put him in. You take him from the bench.
Yeah,
you click the wide receiver button.
Sometimes you got to click
and
save.
Then you click submit.
But you would both start Tate and Jones in any week over him, right?
Yes, I would.
That's
as
the
of right now.
though.
I think so. As of right now. But after next week, I think there could be a complete paradigm shift of how we're viewing the Lions wide receivers. I honestly think that.
He would be at the bottom of. He would be at the bottom of this list for me of all those wide receivers we talked about. I still like Kenny Golladay. The routes they were.
Oh, it was smooth, man. Very, very smooth.
Oh, Kenny G, getting it done on the field. But yeah, I mean, I still think he's the third target in that offense, and
he benefits from no Eric Ebron.
Certainly.
Ryan Grant, 8 for 59. The 9 targets interests me. The fact that Andrew Luck chose to go to him so often. This is a bad defense. So I think the passing volume for Indianapolis will be sustained throughout the season. And if it is a two-man band between T.Y. Hilton and Ryan Grant, there is PPR value there. I'd rather have Ryan Grant right now than – I think I'd rather have him than Jamison Crowder.
Wow.
I think so.
Wow. All right.
I don't know. I don't – I don't blame you there because Alex Smith just doesn't.
He doesn't use
really
his wideouts.
Use wide receivers that much, but I'm not digging the Ryan Grant thing. If you're in a full PPR, sure,
8 of 9 targets.
Get Cole Beasley. He's definitely was looked to, but his average depth of target was like nothing. Just he's getting a 1 yard route.
And the deep league pickup of the week for me is Bruce Ellington. And this is like I said, very deep league.
Will Fuller watch.
And if Will Fuller is out again, then Bruce Ellington is going to be worth a play. Got 8 targets.
All right, running backs. The big probably owned guys that are still worth checking are Matt Breida, who's 57% owned, went 11 for 46 with a target or 2 targets and a reception this past week, and Bilal Powell, 58% owned, 12 for 60, and had just one catch. But this was a game script that did not.
They didn't
have to come back. Yeah. Special team scores, things like that. Those 2 guys, they're the probably owned. I'd rather have some of these guys that are barely owned in terms of a waiver wire priority, other than Bilal Powell, who I think you have to go after.
Yes.
But, I think I wouldn't go after him with more than 10% of my budget.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, I agree. I don't view this week. Usually week 1, there's like the pickup. I don't see that this week. For the running back position, there's a couple. I think a lot of people would say that the main waiver wire pickup is TJ Yeldon, who, if Leonard Fournette misses, will be a very valuable play. But
that's the thing. It's an if now.
Exactly.
If it was definitely Leonard Fournette is going to be out or miss some time, then TJ Yeldon is immediately the pickup of week 1. I still do believe he is the pickup. I would take Bilal Powell over him, but after that, I'm interested in Yeldon with another leg injury for Leonard Fournette, a hamstring injury. Yes, the team says that they believe he's going to play, but hamstring injuries retweak very easily. So Yeldon must be rostered.
Yeah, the reality is this is a much better pickup for those players that have Lev Bell or have Ingram. Where right now you need a guy to plug in your lineup, but it's not necessarily an all-season thing because Fournette should be back and healthy. A lot of times when you hit this waiver wire Tuesday, you've got to pick up Chase Edmonds because DJ's out for the season or something like that. He might be out this week. Maybe he'll miss 2 weeks. TJ Yeldon is very temporary.
How much do you pay?
I think it depends. I think it's going to depend on your league and your team because if I'm thinking about, okay, I would maybe be able to flex Yeldon in, then I'm not going to pay a lot of money here. I'm going to save for that week where I can grab the rest of the year starter. But if I am in that position where I've got Mark Ingram or Lev Bell or one of these guys waiting in the wings to get back, or if I'm the Leonard Fournette owner, then I'm willing to pay up. If I'm the Fournette owner, I'll pay 20-25% of my budget to secure that spot.
I want to talk about Philip Lindsay, running back for the Denver Broncos. Was that Danny Woodhead or is that Philip Lindsay?
Wow.
I can't tell the difference. 15 for 71 on the ground, 2 for 31 and a touchdown on 3 targets. Philip Lindsay's performance in this game was not a surprise to those around the organization, those that have seen Philip Lindsay all preseason long. We need to talk about the implications of Philip Lindsay's breakout. I think, look, 17-4 is what he out-touched Devontae Booker in this game. If you look at Royce Freeman and you say he's the one, how do you not say Philip Lindsay's the 1B right now? It's 1A, 1B. And his performance, the victory, the way he played, and the way he's flashed in preseason, they're both rookies. I think you need to buy into Philip Lindsay. He's somebody that I would consider investing in. He's a fantasy value, maybe beyond real value too, because if you're a pass-catching guy, you're not game scripted out. He was in high-leverage running situations, but even still, this is a situation where I think Philip Lindsay, if you can buy him
15% or lower,
I would be willing to spend 15% on Philip Lindsay. Yes,
I would not, and I totally get the argument for doing it.
I'd rather have him than Buck Allen.
I would rather have Buck Allen. So we can discuss that. But when it looks like this backfield, I think this backfield under Vance Joseph is going to be a little bit of a cluster for fantasy. I don't think you're going to enjoy, at least for the next month, playing Phillip Lindsay or playing Royce Freeman, and all of a sudden, if I've got Devontae Booker on my team, I'm dropping him.
Yes.
But if next week he comes out and ends up with the most total touches,
then you're going to pick him back up.
No, no, that's my point. But I won't be surprised. I feel like this will be a little bit frustrating. But the tiebreaker for me in being a little bit less on Lindsay is just that I don't believe he's the most talented back there. If it was a little bit of a cluster and you're not sure who's going to win out, and the coaching staff look, they really like Lindsay, which that's true. That's 100% locked in, verified. If he was also the most talented back on the roster, I'd start really believing, but I don't think he is.
That's apples and oranges for me. It's like saying Wilt Chamberlain versus Michael Jordan. It's like you're comparing people cross-positionally. They are completely like he is 100% a different player than Royce Freeman. He is more he's an outside the tackles, outside the numbers, pass catching, electric miniature micro robot.
Ironically, though, they weren't using him. They were using him between the tackles over and over and over. 15 carries on the ground in the same situations that you could use Freeman. It wasn't. They weren't using him like a Danny
Booker.
Woodhead.
I just want to say I'm not worried about Devontae Booker at all. These two guys came out. They ran the ball for 4.7 a carry on a team that has a fantastic defense. I think there's enough to go around. This is not – every good word I say about Lindsay is not a bad word about Royce Freeman. Royce Freeman's great. But if Royce Freeman was on the waiver wire right now, how much would you spend on him?
If Freeman,
more than 15%?
Yes.
30%?
Probably.
50%?
Mike would.
Probably more than 50% for Royce Freeman.
No.
Okay.
Maybe.
But if there's a chance, look, this team is going to run the ball well. They're going to put their quarterback in the position to be helped. And I saw everything I needed to see to take a shot on Phillip Lindsay myself. Mike, why don't you weigh in? Because Jason and I have differing opinions. That's what, fantasy owners out there have to make up their own mind. We're not telling you what to do.
Certainly, if we're talking about Phillip Lindsay versus Buck Allen, I think I do lean the Phillip Lindsay side slightly, but then you got to factor in price, and you're gonna be able to get Buck Allen very cheap. He had 9 opportunities, and so he's not showing up on the killer fantasy stat sheets. This is just a projecting of they're going to use Buck Allen. They're going to heavily utilize him, and he'll be able to get into your flex spot and be okay. So that's why I lean Phillip Lindsay. I do think every week you're going to be able to plug him in.
I think you'll be able to plug in Buck Allen every week as well. I mean, he had double the targets that Lindsay had, and that was in a blowout victory where they didn't necessarily have to use the targets. But Buck Allen is their passing downs guy for sure, and then they use him near the goal line. They use him on the ground, and with Kenneth Dixon's injury, I think Buck Allen will beat Buck nasty.
Yeah, nice. It would shock me if they continue to use Lindsay the way that they did, though, where they're just using him as a battering ram up the middle. The guy's like a $190. He over the course of a season, you can't do that to that type of player. They're not going to be able to hold up.
Our editor-in-chief, Kyle Borgognoni, he was talking up. He had done some scouting for other companies, and he remembers Phillip Lindsay in college being someone he was really, really impressed by. And I know that dude knows his football. Obviously, the Denver Broncos agree. I look at his metrics. He's not that athletic a guy, and he's a tiny guy. So I just made a note. I'm going to go watch every Phillip Lindsay snap and today using NFL Game Pass.
Certainly.
And I'll tweet out my findings, because if I change my opinion on Lindsay, I mean, we saw it live, but I want to go back and rewatch with a mind for the waivers.
Interest in James White, Aaron Jones, Austin Eckler, Jordan Wilkins, Nyheim Hines?
Aaron Jones is 100% a stash if he happens to be available. The people are talking about it on Twitter, and I agree that the injury to Aaron Rodgers hurts Aaron Jones' possibilities because Jamal Williams is the better pass protector that could keep Aaron Jones off the field a little bit longer.
Also likely that Jamal Williams has a struggling week 2 against Minnesota.
Yes.
Which might get people excited about Jones, maybe incorrectly, but that could happen this week. John Kelly was inactive last night. If you are the Todd Gurley owner and you've decided to handcuff, which Maybe this move means you just don't, because you probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
Right.
What were your thoughts about John Kelly being inactive and Malcolm Brown being active?
This is one of those situations where you can hope that it's kind of like what Cameron Artis-Payne was, where he was inactive, but he is the replacement handcuff. But the reality is you don't know, so you can't roster either of those guys. You don't. I would not roster John Kelly. I would not roster Malcolm Brown. I would, because it might not be either of those guys. So why take up a roster spot for a hopeful injury? Then if the injury happens, you hope it's that guy.
Right. Yeah, I'm not holding them, but if it comes when it comes time for Sunday morning and I'm making my final roster moves and I have a burner spot, I will throw John Kelly onto the bench moving into the weekend.
But that's still the guy you would pick over Malcolm Brown, even though he was inactive?
I would too, actually.
Yeah.
Okay. I love John Kelly.
Look, you can't put the president and the VP in the same place at the same time.
Right.
They can't travel together.
That's a good point. They got to keep one. If that's a really solid. That's obviously what's happening here.
This is the president and VP situation.
Yeah,
a PvP.
So Joe Biden was inactive here.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yes, that's how I picture.
No, I was like, wait. What?
He just
to date.
screams VP.
Sure.
Right. All right. Here's where I'm spending the majority of my budget. Tight ends.
Yep.
Yes, I'm willing to stand here in this chair with while I sit, of course, and say, look, I've seen every route that George Kittle ran. I've seen it in next gen stats. I've seen it mapped out. It is beautiful. It is wonderful. These are not underneath routes. These are wheels and seams and outs and design plays. And George Kittle was targeted relentlessly in a game against a very difficult opponent. I'm spending more budget on George Kittle this week than I am any other position, unless I was a team that had a massive hole.
Yeah, now right now George Kittle is mostly owned. He was drafted in the vast majority of leagues, but he is out there, and a lot of people have tight end problems. You had Greg Olsen, you had Delaney Walker, you had whoever. Now let me ask you this, Andy. Let's say you had Trey Burton. Who would you rather have, Trey Burton or George Kittle, after what we saw in week 1? Hypothetically
if I
speaking.
had Trey Burton, I would not be dropping him for George Kittle. I would not be spinning fab and being that reactionary. That would be a foolish mistake on my part because I have my tight end position. I still consider having Trey Burton is having my tight end position covered. There are a lot of other people that do not have it covered, and those are the people I think should spend on Kittle if he's available.
Would you be willing to have this be one of those rare situations where you roster 2 tight ends to take the shot on Kittle? Would you pay up and
yes, I'd be willing to roster them both and see how the cookie crumbles for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I would. I have no problem with that whatsoever. 5 for 90 on 9 targets, and he missed some plays.
All right, so let's say George Kittle is not available in your league. Now it opens up to a whole bunch of really good options. This is why we don't usually say roster 2 tight ends. I think it's almost always a mistake because, look, even in our 14-team listener league, there's like 8 guys that you can pick up and play that are just as good as about half the people that are already starting in the league anyways. And so, unless you can truly have a George Kittle, Trey Burton situation where you've got 2 guys who could potentially be top 5 at the position, I wouldn't roster more than 1. But who are you making your play on, of the guys that are majority available?
So you're talking about like Jared Cook, Eric Ebron, Ricky Seals-Jones,
Osfarian Jenkins, Jonnu Smith.
The only ones that I'm really interested in are Cook, Ebron, and Ricky Seals-Jones.
Is Ben Watson's not in that?
I guess Ben Watson is a thought.
Okay.
Yeah, Ben Watson's a thought because of the Cleveland matchup this week. I want to see another week of him, but he doesn't represent upside the way Cook, Ebron, and Ricky Seals-Jones do. He's just like when waivers finish, he's probably still there. I don't have to fight for him. So I'm interested in Ebron, I'm interested in Cook, and I'm interested in Ricky Seals-Jones. I think people should not ignore Ricky Seals-Jones just because it wasn't a great week 1. He was on the field for 92% of snaps, and he had 6 targets and a red zone target that he dropped. Those are the 3 guys, but those are all, Cook is the highest of those. After what we saw, you just have to react to that. I'm talking 10% of my budget, max on Jared Cook.
And what percentage of your budget would Kittle have been? Did I miss that?
No, you didn't. You
I
didn't
think
ask
so.
it, and
No,
I didn't.
just want to make sure that the listeners know exactly what you would bet on George Kittle.
25 to 35%.
Hold on. Need to make a note.
$36
25.
coming in from Jason Moore.
You gonna go buy him, Jay? You gonna make yourself a little tilt? You have Trey Burton, don't you?
Yeah, no. The truth is, I'm not telling.
Okay.
I'll tell you tomorrow.
Okay. Well, we'll tell you on the show tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because waivers will go through
Very nice.
during the show. Mike, thoughts on Cook, Ebron, Ricky Seals-Jones? Anybody else you want to take a shot on? Jonnu Smith taking over in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Will Disley. I mean, people probably are like, wait, why isn't he at the top of these waiver wire pickups?
He's Uncle Will.
Who is he?
Uncle Will.
Look,
Woohoo!
he's Montana strong. This is what we know about Will.
You know it. You hop on his back.
Big
run
country. Big
nice
country.
and slow to that end zone.
I hear
He was impressive.
There's a lot of moose up in Montana.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We get that. You wrestle a moose.
What's the plural of moose?
Moose.
Is it moose?
It is moose.
It's moose.
It's not moose eye?
What? Here's a.
That's what you'd go with.
It's like cactus and cacti? No? No?
How did this happen? When we were making words and like fish and moose, and you go, well, no, there's a lot of them. What do we call it?
Just go with the same thing.
Moose. Moose. What's wrong with mooses?
What's
Seriously,
wrong with...
why couldn't mooses...
It's a fun word.
What about
why
meese? Meese?
No.
I don't know about that.
See, look,
There's a whole herd of meese coming.
and I'm
Mooses sounds stupid because it's wrong.
It is
but
wrong.
if it was right,
It wouldn't be wrong.
Yeah.
Look, you just needed to follow the pattern. Just whatever. When there's
Fishes?
a lot of them, you just add an es sound
You know what?
to it.
I'm zigging. They're mooses now to me. Who's coming with me?
Who's coming with me?
Here's the thing about Will Disley.
What about fishes?
Will Disley, after the big breakout,
You can say fishies, can't you?
That's when, yeah, little fishies for sure. That's when a lot of people, myself included, went and go, okay, who's Will Disley?
Yeah.
Because my understanding was a run blocking tight end drafted in the 4th round
By Seattle.
In
case you don't know.
Yes, the Seattle Seahawks had a major breakout game in Week 1. You go back and look, and it's not a surprise to those in Seattle as far as early camp reports about him turning heads. Great comments from Russell Wilson about being able to rely on him, his intelligence. All of that is there, and look, if you don't have Doug Baldwin, you don't have Jimmy Graham from last year, you don't have who should be in Will Disley's role, Ed Dixon, for the first 6 weeks as he started on the pup. Speaking of which, when he comes back, this is his role. They're going to pass to the tight end. You wanted it to be Vanette. Looked like it was Disley. I still am holding off.
What are you spending on Disley?
I don't think I can
Minimal?
put Disley
$3?
in my lineup.
Can I get $3?
Maybe. I'm fine with $3.
How about
sure.
$3 and 3 mooses?
Oh, I'm so happy to hear you say mooses.
Listen, I want to get into our streams. I'm going to say names, and I want you to tell me if you're fine dropping them, because people want to know. We just mentioned all these players, and the questions, look, we didn't forget what comes with a waiver ad, a drop. So I'm going to name some names that are probably on teams right now, and you say if you're comfortable dropping them. I'm going to go through them real quick. DJ Moore.
Drop.
Josh Doxson.
Drop.
Calvin Ridley.
Drop.
Corey Clement.
Drop.
I think I'm going to drop on that.
I'm not a for sure drop.
All Dallas wide receivers and tight ends minus Beasley.
In PPR. Drop.
Taywon Taylor.
Drop.
Chris Ivory.
He's drop. Marcus Murphy had juice for the Buffalo Bills.
Ronald Jones.
I'm going to drop him.
That's tough.
That is tough. I made this list and this list was people that I would personally drop,
Right.
and that's where I got to my 3 question marks. Ronald Jones.
The problem with Ronald Jones,
You got to live in the now.
you do have to live in the now. If he's on your team, you spent a high pick.
Probably got to wait another couple weeks.
You cannot drop him after 1 week.
I
agree with that.
How did Tampa Bay do this past
Oh,
week?
well, yeah.
I'm just saying, why would they?
Because they spent a high pick too. That's the thing. They invested a high pick as well. And we've already seen, look, Peyton Barber is just like Alex Collins in the Loyalty department to me.
Look, thankfully, I don't think a lot of the Foot Clan out there drafted Ronald Jones
Well,
because
some of them might listen to me.
yes, some of them might listen to you, but I think the majority don't have him. And congratulations.
You even admitted he'd have late season value. You're not changing on 100%. That after week 1, right?
No, 100%. But I also said I would not draft him.
I am the baby bear in this situation because Jason said don't draft, and he's saying drop. Andy said draft and hold on. I said don't draft.
Yeah,
but I'm not dropping him yet.
Devontae Booker,
drop.
And then Dante Moncrief.
Drop creep.
I'd be drop.
Dante drop creep?
Yeah.
That's tough. All right, here we go. Let's move on.
Full stream ahead.
Hopefully by now you know why we stream the quarterback position so often. And if you don't, you can look at the box score for Jason and my League of Record matchup. I was able to move Patty Mahomes into my lineup on Saturday night in place of Tyrod Taylor. I was worried about the matchup, and it won me the week.
And for everyone out there, because I did see it, I saw a funny tweet that said, they said late round quarterback would be fine. They said Matthew Stafford was a good play, and obviously he had a terrible play. So you're not going to get. Oh yeah, that's not even good enough for this. You're not going to get every matchup right. And this week it just so happened that your big names, your Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady and Drew Brees, they did great. But we've been doing this for a long time, and this is
who else did great? Phillip Rivers.
Yes,
Ryan
Rivers did
Fitzpatrick,
great. Pat Mahomes. So look, you cannot let one player 1 week take you off course. Streaming quarterback is a great strategy. So
streams of the week.
Who's it going to
Mike,
be?
Who's your stream for week 2? Mind you, we're trying to give you a low-owned quarterback option for week 2.
Yeah, this guy should be widely available in your league. I talked him up in the matchups when we were going through them last week.
You did.
Case Keenum at home versus the Oakland Raiders. Jared Goff looked okay. But if Brandon Cooks comes down with a couple of those balls instead of a pass interference, Jared Goff's day looks a lot different. When Case Keenum is at home and he is a favorite, he is a reliable quarterback, and he's surrounded by still elite pass-catching weapons. If you're wondering, is Emmanuel Sanders, has he lost it? The answer is no. Emmanuel Sanders is fantastic. Demaryius Thomas as well is an excellent wide receiver still. So Case Keenum, if you're scraping at your waiver wire for quarterback, I think you can play him.
Jason, who's your stream of the week for week 2?
My stream, he's a little bit more owned, but I think he's widely available still, is Alex Smith. He was great against Arizona. This is a matchup. Look, Andy Dalton came out, and if you watched that game last week, you go, man, Andy Dalton is bad. He's just not a good quarterback. I'm sad that I streamed him. And as the game went along, you went, oh, okay. Now I see why I streamed him.
I'm still sad, but I will take the points.
I'm still sad, but the Colts are bad, and Andrew Luck is able to move the ball, so people are going to be scoring against him. Alex Smith, you'll be able to stream against Indianapolis. He'll get you, yards on the ground. Jordan Reed will have a fun time. I think you can fire him up.
Fun old time.
A fun old time.
Look, if you've seen the GIF, if you've seen my Jordan Reed GIF, he's loose in the midsection.
Yeah, you probably want to follow that on Twitter.
His hip flexors are loose.
Alex Smith was the 13th ranked quarterback last week. My stream of the week is Tyrod Taylor going to New Orleans. New Orleans defense looked atrocious, and it's not hard for Tyrod to put up a fantasy week, even if he's not great. Last week he finished 11th. In the rain.
What?
He finished 11th in the rain
my goodness.
with 197 passing yards.
That's Tyrod.
Stupid.
So if that's possible, I know it's stupid, Jay, but it's reality, and you got to live with it. You got to move on.
No, we got a platform.
We can do better.
Change this over the next couple of years.
No, stop.
A yard is a yard. All yards are created equal.
Tyrod Taylor against New Orleans. New Orleans got absolutely destroyed last week.
I can get on
Josh
board.
Gordon's going to be out there doing more this week than last week without rain.
Is he going to start, or is Hugh Jackson going to have to make up for his
He going to finish.
His
He
egregious
going
error?
to finish. Look, Landry, Gordon, Callaway, Njoku, and company, Duke Johnson out of the backfield. It's a great – and look, he's owned in 12% of leagues.
They're coming off their best start in 14 years or so?
Yeah, 0-1. And some honorable mentions. Mike,
Eli
the 8th-ranked quarterback last week was Joe Flacco.
Yeah, so part of watching Baltimore, because I was watching specifically for the running backs, Joe Flacco, he looks okay, but the thing is he looks aggressive. I know they're running a bunch of packages for Lamar Jackson to get on the field, but Joe Flacco, maybe that's stoking the flames of he's got the electric
last
rookie
year's
behind
Alex
him.
Smith. You know, they bring in Pat Mahomes, and now all of a sudden Alex Smith is like, oh, I got to play better.
Yeah,
and,
so Joe Flacco, maybe he's not being complacent. He was forcing the issue. He has his best wide receiver crew that he's had in a very long time. Joe Flacco against the Bengals.
Yeah, you could do worse. I think Eli Manning at going to Dallas, after the week 1 against the Jaguars, he's going to be available on waivers.
Yes, he will.
I would be willing to play him. And if you have a snake, I would be willing to play Blake Bortles.
I got a snake, man.
Only if you are a
Blake
snake pet owner.
The last thing I will throw out there, because people might be saying, "Oh, what about defenses?" First of all, I'm not dropping New Orleans Saints. I'm playing them.
Scary.
Yeah.
Why? Why do it?
Because I think they're a good defense.
But they were really bad.
We saw them get torched week 1 last year.
But why play them, though? I get
Because
that.
it's Cleveland.
I would.
At home.
Yeah.
Like, I'm still playing them. Maybe I'm wrong, but I mean, we got to take our shot. I believe that they are a good defense. I don't believe Cleveland is a great offense.
Why does it maybe push you to another defense until you can find out? Why bet on them in this matchup? That's all I thought that I have. I'm like, why bet on them?
Because if they were on the waivers, and they will be on the waivers in many a league, but plenty of people are dropping them, I would pick. Here's some other good pickups: Bears against Seattle, the Bengals against the Ravens, the Bucks against Nick Foles'
If you're a B
Eagles.
team, you get signed.
And if that's true, the Bears, Bengals, and Bucks. But I would take the Saints over any of those guys at home against Cleveland, without a doubt.
Most people with the Saints lost last week. I don't think they want to go doubling up.
And that's why I'm bringing it up. I had them for -9, and I lost in part due to that. So
got to bandage up.
Yeah,
I wouldn't
bandage
touch
up
them
those wounds.
Touch them with a 40-foot pole.
Wow, that's.
Well, I don't know why. There's no reason to do it.
It's the Saints and the Grinch, apparently.
All right. Hey. You want to know how New Orleans Saints defense did, and you want to go back and watch it, you do it on NFL
Cover
Game
your
Pass.
eyes.
They're going to give you NFL football on your time. Replay your favorite games and standout performances every angle all season long and all the different formats. Best of all, you can kick off this season with a 7-day free trial of NFL Game Pass. Sign up now at NFL.com/fantasyfootballers. That's NFL.com/fantasyfootballers. Game on.
We also want to remind you to check out jointhefoot.com if you want to support this podcast, get an extra episode every week, access to premium projections, flex rankings, the tools that you need to win, and you get to support this show.
And we appreciate it. We thank you, Foot Clan.
Absolutely. Thanks for tuning in. Tomorrow we'll be back. We'll catch you up with injuries, news, mailbag, and much more. Thanks for keeping it right here. And check out draft.com/ballers if you want to play some daily.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.